Albuquerque has a lot of problems, and anyone who's lived here for any length of time knows that. It's visual. You see it with broken windows on businesses as you drive down the street. You see it with homelessness. You see it with people actively using drugs on street corners, and it's very sad. We've got a lot of problems with vandalism. We've got a lot of problems with burglary, and small business owners not only had to deal with all of the things that happened during COVID, but then you've now got folks that are habitually shoplifting, and you've got these business owners that are really hard pressed to keep their doors open because they're not making enough profit in and of itself, and they're having to pay for property damage on top of it all. So there undoubtedly are a myriad of problems in Albuquerque that need to be addressed. My name is Birga, and I'm a third-generation Albuquerque native on my dad's side. My great-grandmother moved to Albuquerque on a covered wagon with her family when she was a child. And my grandmother was born here, my dad was born here, I'm born here, I've got 2 daughters born here, so we're continuing to keep the legacy alive. I graduated from UNM in the broadcast department and had ambitions of being the next Katie Couric, but that did not pan out, and I ended up in a very humble AM radio station, but found that radio was really a love of mine, and I spent about 10 years doing talk radio. I was with a small AM station for 8.5 years and then moved over to an FM band and a different organization and finished out my radio career on the FM side of the dial. In all of my years on air, I would have a weekly pattern of different churches or organizations that were wanting some airtime. They would want to come on and talk about their clothing closets or their pantries, their backpack drives. And week after week, I would have these folks come in and share their stories about all the good news that they were doing in the community. But if I brought up the fact of, hey, there's another organization doing something kind of similar, what do you think about talking to them? And what if you guys teamed up and did something together? And unfortunately, the common response was, oh, well, we don't really believe what they believe, or we do things differently, or we don't play together with those guys. And so I might have on any given week 6 or 7 different organizations doing a backpack drive, all within blocks of each other, all wanting their event to be highlighted. And unfortunately, there was no teamwork, there was no collaboration, and oftentimes what we heard was stories of cars that would go from event to event to event, grab a backpack at each one, and hoard the materials. After 10 years of doing radio and hearing about all of these nonprofits and all the things they were doing, getting to know leadership in all of these different organizations, I actually met someone at a function who let me know that Love Inc., a local nonprofit, which is part of a national affiliate, the Inc. stands for In the Name of Christ, was getting ready to have some leadership transition. And it was kind of a casual ask, like, hey, you wouldn't be interested in that role, would you? And I would never considered anything like that before. I was very happy in radio, but something about that question kind of percolated in the back of my mind. And over the course of the next couple weeks, found myself thinking and praying over it, and ultimately made a pretty scary decision to leave my career, the thing that I really loved, to step into the nonprofit world, and kind of the rest is history from that point forward. Rally ABQ is an organization that I started back in 2016. I became very aware that there was lots of nonprofit leaders, lots of community leaders, government, police, even business leaders that really were passionate about changing the city. I began this organization that was really designed to bring people together to have these hard conversations about what's going on in our community and how do we work together to solve it. And so month after month got together and just had this beautiful group of really passionate, creative people that wanted to move the marker in Albuquerque on the things that were causing problems. I think the happiest that I've been in the last number of years in any of the roles that I've played has really been as a collaborator. When people come together and they sit down together at a table and there's respect and there's appreciation for what the other person does, and there's not that spirit of competition, and there's meaningful conversation about how to work on a problem together, there is no happier place for me than in that moment. There is not going to be a man-made solution that's going to fix any of these problems, and this is all going to take what I call Godspiration. It's going to be God giving inspiration to people who are willing to act on His instructions. And those, I think, are the solutions that are going to ultimately generate more bang for the buck than anything else that's been attempted. I joined FCCI right at the beginning of my time serving with Love Inc. And so that would have been back in 2016. I had been aware of it before. I'd been introduced to it during the days that I was working radio, but at that time it wasn't a right fit for me. But when I took over the role of being executive director of an organization, I knew I needed coaching and I knew I needed help in becoming a better leader. And so FCCI really facilitated that. These were veteran business owners, business leaders that I had opportunity to meet with every single week, to have really candid conversation with, to pray with, and then of course to learn from the materials that were being shared during a weekly session. It's rich conversation, it's lots of learning, it's this support network, it's this prayer net, and it's just a fantastic way to have like-minded believers just lift you up in times when you need that encouragement, to celebrate with you when you have the wins. It's been a great experience for me.